My name is Victor Varnado. I'm the producer, director, and co-executive producer of Tell Your Friends, the concert film.
Hi, my name's Kurt Braunohler.
And I'm Kristen Schaal.
I am Leo Allen.
My name is Rob Paravonian, and I'm one of the performers in the Tell Your Friends, the concert film, or Tell Your Friends, the movie.
I had previously directed a concert film that was also like more than just a comedy concert film. And so I was 100% behind the idea of making something that was really special, that would stay with people. And it's a spectacular film for New York, but then again, for people outside of New York, it's like a side of comedy that they've never seen before, and they didn't even know it existed.
I think it does a great job of representing that show that we did
that
the night that it was recorded. I think it does a great. It's pretty accurate, wouldn't you say? It's pretty accurate to that night.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that night is a good accuratization of
good word.
A lot of nights.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Like I think that taste of the scene is what you would find in New York now.
Yeah, that. We call it a TOS, a taste of the scene.
Taste of the scene.
And I think it's the main thing you would go for in like a documentary, this type of thing.
This is what the documentary is about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to be a part of it because it is, I've been performing in the Lower East Side venues since I moved to New York in the mid-90s, so it's, for me, it was, I was pretty honored to be part of something that might end up representing the scene, and I like that they have a good variety of performers in there. There's a couple stand-ups, a couple sketch-type things. They got Reggie Watts, who does his thing, and I do music in comedy, so I feel like I was able to bring a little, another element to it.
How do you feel about the term alternative comedy and sort of the significance of having these other rooms run by comics that are separate from the clubs?
As a professional scene taster, I don't mind it, but it's kind of a silly word. I think it's silly. I almost don't care anymore. I used to not like it. I used to be like, it's just comedy. It's all comedy. It doesn't matter. Our jokes are a little different, and we don't necessarily just one person on stage. But I think it's fine.
I don't think anybody uses that word.
A lot of people who are involved in the alternative world themselves will tell you how much BS is around it, or how much bunk there is involved in the alternative world.
Really? I mean, I've never really thought about it too much, but I kind of hate that term. I feel like it's a lazy thing that the New York Times made up, and they write an article about it, which is exactly the same every 3 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
Do you consider yourself an alternative comedy performer? Would you define it in those terms, or would you define that as genre at all?
I think I would say just I'm a comedian and a musician. The alternative part, I think, came up just as people were trying to describe the shows that weren't happening in the comedy club. So I think alternative comedy scene or independent comedy scene might be more apt. But as a performer, I still just consider myself a comedian. I just happen to be in a lot of non-comedy club venues.
Alternative is mainstream.
Right.
Essentially, that's kind of the thrust of the movie, is that there is no such thing as alternative comedy.
I think, to me, Liam's show is different because Liam is a comedian, and he was like, I want to have a place where, you can just try stuff.
And you do the same thing every Monday, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what
Whiplash.
I myself always try to do 100% new stuff. I mean, sometimes I'll do something, but I will have at least rewritten it. Mm-hmm. And I want comedians to, and I think they do, use it as something where they can work on something without, you don't have the same responsibility to the audience at 11 o'clock show on a Monday that's free to deliver.
Right.
So you can, I'm trying something, if someone's like, oh, I'm doing, Leno or whatever, I want to work something out, then that's the place to do it, and it's for you, it's not for the audience.
The venues are very carefully picked. We try to get rooms that are in certain neighborhoods and have, the neighborhoods that people have access to.
I like 11.5-foot tall ceiling.
Yeah.
I think that's more alternative than the clubs usually have a 12 to 15-foot tall ceiling.
Our main rule of doing our comedy shows is that nobody's charged drink minimums or has to buy a meal. If you have to pay at the door, we try to keep it below $10. And I think that's sort of what differentiates what we're doing with what people who actually make a living at their craft are doing.
And always an odd number of seats.
You're just, hopefully you'll use it for your own benefit,
right.
Whether you consider yourself an alternative comic or a club comic or a street performer, or maybe Banksy. We don't know. We don't know who Banksy is. That's the thing. He could be there a lot.
I hope that there's like a kid who's super into comedy in like a small town, in the middle of the country that wouldn't and never see this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I hope he gets to see it and gets inspired, and then is like, oh, I can do the type of stuff that I've been thinking of, or that I thought like wasn't, that I don't see on the stages that I have access to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a phone sex sketch
In my head
this whole time that I was afraid of, and now that I saw Kristen and Kurt do it,
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring it to life in the community theater.
Yeah. Tiny community theater.